Hello and welcome. Today we want to do text functions from our IT 9626. We're on page 137. So we are going to go through the book explaining, and then we go into it practically as well in our Excel. So this is coming from our spreadsheet topic. Text functions. Calculations can be performed on text to extract parts of text, join text together, calculate the length of text, or change the case of text. Okay, so this is what we'll be doing with text functions. Okay, so now we are going to go and look into the list of text functions that we have and how they work. Okay, so this is the table that we are going to be using. So we have the function called concatenate. The purpose of this function is to join together text values. Okay, so when you have a value in a cell, in two cells or more, and you want to join them to become one in another cell, right? You use concatenate. So it's going to combine, for example, here equals concatenate. So this is going to combine whatever is in A1, in B1, and C1, and combine it together in one cell. Okay, so if you have your name, your second name, your surname, those in three different cells, right? It can then combine them to make one. So when you're concatenating, either you are using the function concatenate or you are using this ampersand symbol, right? So you can actually say equals A1 ampersand symbol B1 ampersand symbol C1. So this is going to do the same thing as that. So we need to know these two because when question papers ask, they can actually say do not use the concatenate function. Can combine but do not use the concatenate function, meaning you should remember that you should use this ampersand sign. Okay. However, when you are combining and you want to have space between your name, your second name, and the surname, it means you need to bring in space as a character as well. That's why we have this example here, A1 ampersand dot. So it means here it's going to separate using that full stop there. Ampersand B1 ampersand 8. So it's a symbol that you can also bring. So when you are bringing in text, right, or symbols, you need to quote them, but you use double quotes, right? You are using double quotes that come together as double quotes, not the ones that come as one. Okay, so the effect will not show. So you need to use the double quotes. So whatever you want, you are putting it inside the ampersand. So you put the ampersand C1, it's going to bring in value in C1, and you put an ampersand if you want another thing to also be combined. And because here we want .it.com, meaning it's going to be in double quotes because this is text as well. Okay, so we'll put that in double quotes. Okay, then after that, we can move on to explain the left and then we will go and do the practical. Okay, so left function is going to extract the furthest left characters. So if you say equals left A1, we are saying that whatever is in cell A1, we want the left furthest, right? How many do we want? 4 characters. So you name the cell that you want to work on and the number of characters you want it to pick. Okay. Then when we have the right function, what does it do? It extracts the furthest right characters. So from your cell, if we are going to say equals right A1, our cell is A1. Whatever value is in A1, we will start from the right side coming in, okay? And you specify now the number of characters that you want coming from the right. So here, that's why we have 2, okay? Then we look at the mid function. Mid function extracts characters from a starting point, right? So we have a starting point where we want, so the mid point is going to say mid of what? Mid of what? Mid of A2. So you start by saying, which cell am I working on? So the midpoint of A2, then you specify your starting point. I want to start at character number 4. So you are going to count from your left going in 1, 2, 3, 4. When you get to the 4th point, you start there to count. How many do you want from that position? How many do you want? Here we have 6, meaning it's going to pick 6 characters from the start point that we have selected. Then len is a function that calculates the length of a string. So in a cell, how long is that text that is in there? It's going to count the number of characters that make up the word that would be in the cell A1. Okay, so this is just giving us the length, and it will just say 7 or 5, depending on the text that is inside that cell. Then upper converts whatever text into uppercase. Okay, so we have equals upper A1. So whatever is in A1 is going to be converted to uppercase. Then lowercase also just converts whatever is in A1 to lowercase. Okay, then we have find. Find is going to say find what? Okay, so you specify what you want to find, and then you specify where. So you start by saying find it in A2, right? Because 8 is a symbol, we always have to quote in double quotes. So when we are talking about text symbols, you have to quote them in double quotes so that the Excel can execute them correctly. So it's saying find what way. That's how the find function works. Okay, so let's look at how the examples have been done in the textbook first. So we are going to go through the textbook examples together. Right, so we have this worked example of text functions. Text functions have been used to extract data. So we have this data that has been used to extract, right? So from this data that we have been used to extract, can you take a minute to just look at it? And these are the cells that have the values. And we have up, which has been extracted from apples, AS from bananas, AWB from strawberries, and we have 5. We have 5 here. Okay, so I think we have found something. So from apples, we had a function that had to extract apples and is starting from the far left, which means that we are going to use left. Okay, so we have this that has been used to take values from those cells, Mr. Minjan Park, and now D has everything in there. Okay, so there are some functions that have been used to manipulate this data and make it look like this. Okay, so let's look at the functions and the values that we have together. So this is the extracted data, and these are the functions that are behind. Now we are looking at it together and see if that's the same that you had also seen. Right. So we have Mr. Minjin Park. And when we want to combine these and also keep space between them, right? Space is actually a character. So you're going to use 2 methods. You said concatenate is 2 methods. Either we are going to say equals concatenate, or we are going to use the ampersand symbol. Okay, so equals A1, because this is our A1. So it's going to take a value that is in A1, ampersand to combine. Combine with what? We want space first, so that's why we are going to have double quotes with a space in between. Double quotes with a space in between, double quotes, space, double quotes. And we put an ampersand again to say, I want to combine that space with what? With the value that is in B1. So that's why we have B1 there. Ampersand, I want to combine it with what? With space again, because I want space after that name. And ampersand, then we put our C1. Okay, so this is also the same as using this method where you are actually calling the function called concatenate. So equals concatenate. Concatenate what? Concatenate A1, comma, right? We are no longer using the ampersand because we are using the predefined function concatenate. So it's going to say A1, comma, we put our space, double quotes, space, double quotes, comma, then we put our B1, comma, double space, uh, double quotes, space, double quotes, comma, C1. So it's combining A1, B1, and C1. But between A1 and B1, we code in the space character. And also between B1 and C1, we code in the space character so that we can have that space there and that space there. We don't want it to come out as just one string. Okay, it will then become a bit meaningless. But if it's like that, we can read it and understand it better. Okay, so that will be from our concatenate function. Then when we move to this one, we want to extract the APP from apples. So we are moving from the left side. So we are saying equals left, left of A4, right? Left of A4, how many characters do we want? 3. So that's why we have equals left A4, comma, 3, right? Then the AS from bananas, this is the AS. So we are coming from the right. Therefore, we are going to say equals right, right? So equals right, right of what? This is our B4, okay? So right of B4, comma, 2, because we want 2 characters, 1, 2. So we have AS coming out, okay? Then for this one, AWB, this is AWB. So we can see that this is inside, this is in the inside part of the value that we have or the text that we have. So we use the mid to extract values that are at some position inside uh, the text. Okay, so we are going to say equals mid, mid of what? Mid of this cell called C4, right? And then you count at which position do I want to start? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I want to start at position 4. How many do I want? 3. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's why we'll end up with AWB because I started at position 4 and took out 3 characters. Starting from that point where I said position 4, this is my number 1 counting. 1, 2, 3. So I want 3 characters. Now I get that. Okay. Now for this one, okay, we have the word and we want to have a number from the word, okay? So this is length. Length is just going to count the number of characters in the word. And when we count the number of characters, it's going to give us a number, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So length is going to give us 5, saying that there are 5 characters in the word that we have been given. Okay. And then for this one, it's just uppercase. We can see this is an uppercase function that has been used. So it is just changed the values to uppercase. And this one is lowercase. It has changed the values to lowercase. So we have uppercase there, lowercase there. You're just referring to the cell that you are putting the lower or uppercase. Okay. Then we now want to put on to go on to explaining the find function. Okay. So when we are using the find function here, we said the find says find what, where. Okay. So we want to use an example that we have been given so that we explain the find function. So we are saying the find function can be used to find the position of a substring within a string. Find it in this email. Okay, so it's going to give us a numerical number, right? The find is going to give us a numerical number to say, I found it at position this. Okay, so we said our find also is saying, find what way. Okay, so you start by saying, what do I want to find? And you specify what you want to find. After specifying what you want to find, it will give you the value. So let's try and look at this. We have 5 here, right? So what value was being looked for here, right? We can try to estimate the function that was used here, find the find function, and we get that value. So we can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the function that was here would be find n in A1. So it will give us 5 because n is the one that is at position 5. And at position 8, we are saying what was the function equals find what way. Okay, so we want to find it in A2, but what are we looking for? Which will give us 8. So we are saying let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we are finding n again because the n is the one that is at the 8th position. So that's why we have that. And then here, hash value. This, we get it when Excel says, I don't understand, or what we are looking for is not applicable, right, to what we are looking for. For example, if we say find n in this one, it's not going to find n, so it will give us this error to say hash value. Okay, so we can look here at the top of our page. Now, these are the functions that are behind what we've been looking at. So find n in A1, right? N, we put it in double quotes. We put it in double quotes because this is text. Find n in A1. So this is our A1. So this is going to give us the 5 that we found then. Find n in A2, it will give us 8 because n is the position 8. Find n in A3, it's going to give us a hash value because there is no n in there. So that's how the find function is going to be working. Okay. So now we want to go on to this part. For example, we have this email that we have here. On this email that we have here, if we are asked to extract the right of this email, sorry, if we are asked to find maybe the .com or the com, it's just coming from the right. So you can just say equals right, and you find the number of characters you want to extract. If it's the whole domain, you can just count and get the whole domain. Okay, for example, gmail.com there. So you can just say equals right and get it. But now, if the question says it wants to extract the domain name, not gmail.com specifically, but the domain name, meaning the domain name can change at any position. We can have it as gmail.com, we can have it at gmail.com, or we can have it mail.com. So we want to make sure that we are writing a function that is going to extract whatever domain is written, right? So meaning the right function is not going to work because right function is going to be specifically counting what is there. But we need to do something to our right function so that it knows that I have to start after I see this H symbol, because our email always have that H symbol, right? So whatever domain that is coming after the H symbol, meaning I have to do something. So we can go down and now look at this. So we can explain what is happening here. Now you will realize that when we are doing functions or writing functions, we are going to be nesting, right? Functions, another function inside another function to bring out what we want. Really, we are going to be using them as individual functions, okay? Now we want to find the domain. We don't want to extract gmail.com. We want to extract the domain. That's our question. Extracting the domain name, right? So whatever domain name is written should come out correct. So there are two methods that have been illustrated here, and we are going to explain them, what is happening. Okay. So we are saying when we are looking at our emails, let's say like this, our email is mpac@gmail.com, right? If we were just asked to say extract gmail.com, we were just going to say equals, right? Then we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it was going to extract as gmail.com, right? But if the question says extract the domain name from the email given or from the emails given, right? It means it should be able to know that whatever domain name has been given there, it should just extract it correct. Of course, it's coming from the right, but we want it to know how many characters it's supposed to extract. So for how many characters it's supposed to extract, we are now saying, can you find that H symbol? If you find it there, right, that's what we want you to be your starting point. The value after will be your starting point. So when you find it, then you subtract the length of this. You have the size of or the number of characters that you have that you're supposed to pick from the right. So for this one, it says equals right because we want to come from the right side, right? Right of what? So we maintain the syntax of the function that we are calling. Right is always right of what? Of A5. This is our A5, right? But after, immediately after the comma, we want to say how many characters does the right function has to count. But because we know it can always be changing, right? We are now implementing functions to make sure that it's always checking and bringing us the correct answer of the domain that is given at that point. So we are going to say length of A5. This is now calculated from that point to that point. We are calculating the value or the number of characters it should pick. So this is going to be changing depending with with these functions that have been used. So length of A5, we are saying the length of A5, meaning whatever has been given in there, start by counting the length of that. So when we count, we are going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, right? So length of A5, meaning here we now have a number 15. Len A5, we are replacing it with 15 for now because that's what's there in our A5. If we change it, it's going to also count and give us the number of characters that are there at that particular time, right? So for now we have 15, so we are replacing len A5 with 15. So that subtract the position of the 8. So that's why we have minus, right? So 15 minus what? Find 8 in A5. So it's going to look for 8 in A5. So this is the 8. So it's going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So it's going to say, if I find 8, find what way? So find 8 in A5. So that is going to be replaced by 6. So we are going to say 15 minus 6, right? And then the value that we get is the number of characters that we are going to count. Because we said because we said right is going to say right of what? How many characters? So right of A5, how many characters? So this point to that point is calculating the number of characters that we should pick. So now we are saying len is 15, find is 6, right? So if we say 15 minus 6, we are being left with how many? And we count those. So let's count and see how many we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we want to see that we want to have 9 there. So we want to see if 15 minus 6 gives us 9. Does 15 minus 6 give us 9? Yes, it gives us 9. So for this, it's going to give us a correct answer because it's going to count 9 characters up to that point and gives us the answer. Okay, so that is method number 1. So you realize that most of our functions, we are going to be using them as nested like this. Okay, so this is how we are going to be looking at them. So let's go and have a look a bit on what we have done and also implement it practically. So this is the email that we have, right? And if we are to get that MPAC only, we are using the left function. So if we say equals left of A5, this is our A5 and 5 characters. So it's going to extract as MPAC, right? However, a space is also recorded as a character. So when you put space in your words, for example, if I'm going to put space between there, enter, it means that it's going to do out with the pack, with the K to make it pack, and give me the M and the space, and space is counted as also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to end there because I said I want up to that point. Okay. And then when we say right, we said equals, right? The right function counts from the right. So right of what? Right of A5, comma, how many characters? We want to bring out the com, so we want 3. So we will click on 3 and it will give us com, right? If we want to extract dmel from that, we are using the mid because mid is the one that is going to be extracting from the midpoint, from any midpoint of the text that we have been given, okay? So equals mid. So it will always give us a helper, and there's always a helper to help us. The text now, mid of what? Mid of this, right? After I put my comma and then the one that is now bold is showing start num. Where do I start? So because we want Gmail, we're going to say count 1, 2, space, we count it because it's a character. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I want to start at position 8. And how many characters do I want? Num characters is saying number of characters. I want Gmail, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 characters. So it's going to give me that. Okay, and we have said lower is going to give me the lowercase of whatever text I'll have given. And if I want uppercase, I use upper. So upper is going to give me the uppercase of the text that I would have selected. So if I select this cell and say uppercase, it's now going to give me that value in uppercase. Okay, now we have the find function. So we said find says find what way. So if I say equals find equals find find what, put the double quotes that come together as one, like that. Okay. And you put the one that whatever you're looking for. So after that, you put your comma. Within text, which text, find it there and put your enter. So find will give you numerical number 7, meaning the 8 that we said look for, it's at position 7. So we are counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so at 7 position, that's where we find that. Okay, so now let's implement the function that we've just done, where we said, what if the question actually wants us to extract the domain, right? Relative to whatever email that we have been given. We want the domain to be correct, right? So we are saying first method that we have seen, that we want to go through is, it says equals, right? Okay, because we know the domain is from gmail.com. So that's our domain. So it's from the right side. Okay, it's right of what? Right of this cell, comma. But number of characters, now we cannot write this number of characters by just counting, because if we count and we change this email, it's going to bring us a wrong value. So for now, we will test and we have our right, and it will give us the correct because we have counted 9 there. What if we then change this domain, right, to put on other values? Maybe this is now our new domain. So when we change our new domain, you can see that the right function will not know now. It will remain at gmail.com because it's just counting 9 characters. But these 3 that have been added to this new domain, to be part of the domain, they are not counted. So when we are writing functions, we want to cater for this manipulation that can happen to text, so that it's always going to bring us the correct answer. So we are now saying equals, right of this email, comma. Now on the number of characters, that's where we want to play around with, to make sure that it's always checking before counting, always checking and calculating, and then count after having a correct calculation of what it's supposed to extract for us. So we are going to say, okay, what is the length of this value that we have? Length of this, right? Okay, so the length of this email, right? So this is the length. The length of this email is going to be replaced by it counting how long the email is, right? So when it counts how long the email is, we want it to subtract the position of the 8, right? So from the length, subtract the position of the end. That means you are left with the correct number that you're supposed to count. So if you count here and get 15, and when you get 15 as the length, you are now going to say position of 8 is what? If position of 8 is 6, so 15 minus 6, you are supposed to get your 9. But if the length is longer than 15, now you have to count and say, okay, the number is now 16. If it's now 16, 16 minus the position of the 8, which is 6, what are you left with? So extract that. Okay, so we are going to say minus, the length is going to give us the length of this, minus find function, find the 8. And we said we always have to make sure that we put the double quotes. Find what? Where? Find the 8 in that cell there. Okay, so we are saying this length, the length of this minus find that position of that. This is going to give us a number. So we said find gives us the position, gives us the number of where the 8 is, right? So it's going to give us that. And then we have to close our bracket for that. Okay, so now you can see that this answer is different from that one because this one is catered to say, okay, I have to find the 8 first. Where is the 8? The 8 is there. So from counting the length of this, find the 8 position, and whatever is left is the number of characters I must get from the right, and then it calculates and it gives you the correct. Meaning in the event that you change this to even a shorter, still it's going to give us the correct. Okay, however, this one will still give us the wrong because it's just counting 9, and now it's now ending at H, but there is a G that is still there. But this one is giving us exactly as it is, and it's coming out as a correct answer. Okay, so that's how this function is working. Okay, now we can go to the last one, the mid function. So this is another method that we can use to find, which is saying the midpoint of A5, right? Find the midpoint of A5, and then your starting position should be find the 8 in that A5. When you find it, move to the next position 1, right? And then the number of characters that you are supposed to have is going to also to be length of A5 minus the position of the 8, right? Position of the 8 in that A5, then you add a 1. Okay, so whenever we are using our mid, this is the main function we are using. So we know that our mid is saying mid of what? Mid of A5, because we want to extract a position in A5. So mid of A5, when you get to mid of A5, it says, can you give me the start number? Where should I start? Start where you find the 8 sign, right? When you find the 8 sign in the A5, right? Add 1 to it because we don't want the position of 8, 5. We don't, the 8 sign, we don't want to extract the 8 sign. We want the value that is coming after the 8 sign, okay? So which is our Gmail, right? Our D, we don't want the 8 that is coming before. We want it there. So find it. When you get it at 7, move to position the next position, which is position 8. Can you start from there? That's what's happening at that stage where we are saying find to that. Then from this position now, it's now saying how many characters? How many characters do we want to extract? Right. So from the number of characters we want to extract, that's where now we are saying, okay, the length of that A5, this one is a bit longer, but at least it's helping us see how these functions are merged together. Length of that A5, right? What is the length? If it's 15, we are saying, okay, length of A5 is 15, right? So 15 minus what? 15 minus the position of 8. What is the position of 8? Position of 8 is in that A5. What is it? Is it 6, right? If it's that position of 8 is 6 plus 1, it will give us 7, right? So we are saying length of that uh, minus 7. So it's going to give us the value that we are supposed, the number of characters that we are supposed to move from that position. Okay, so we can now go and also uh, do this one also practically, so we can see it's also functioning. Okay, so let's go to our Excel. Okay, so let's move on to our Excel, and we take and then write this function as well. Right. So we are going to write this function. We said now we are using the mid function, right? So equals mid. So this one is saying, fine, we want to get that. So can I use the mid function to find the position and the length? So I'm going to say mid. Mid of this. Okay. So mid of my A5, right? So mid says mid A5, and it says start number. Where should I start, right? So I'm putting my comma, and now I'm giving it where to start. It should start where it finds the 8. So I'm now saying 8. So I'm writing my find. Find what? Find my 8 symbol. I'm putting my 8 symbol inside quotes. Find 8. Where? In this cell. Okay? Right. So it's going to say this is my start position when you are looking at this start where you get that. But if it starts there, it's going to also show my 8 sign. So I want it to start at the next one, right? So I'm going to say plus 1 so that it's when it finds this, can it move to the next one and it starts at that position. Then I put on my and then when it sees this, now it has to know I'm starting there, right? Now that it knows I'm starting there, it now wants how many characters from there. So from that part when I'm saying how many characters, that's when now I'm saying, okay, my number of characters is going to be the length. Now, can you use the length of this? Length of A5, right? So length of A5 minus length of my A5, I have to close that, minus find that 8. Always remember to quote it. Find it in there. Here we use a comma, right? We close our bracket there. Okay. So now we are saying find it. So it's going to find it in there. So this from this point here, coming here, we are now calculating the number of characters we want it to extract, right? So when it says length of this, it's going to count and get whatever number, 15, for example. And when it counts, it's going to say, okay, I found 15, right? But I don't want to extract 15 characters from this. So I'm now saying, find it. Now, that 15 minus the position of the 8. The position of the 8 is this position, right? So the position of the 8, and it's going to say, okay, what is the position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my position of the 8 is 7. Okay. So my whatever number that I have. So let's count the whole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, so the whole text here is 17 characters, right? So length of A5 will give me 17. 17 minus that is 7. So we are having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So let's, okay, when you say yes, we didn't close the enough brackets, so it can just close for you. Okay, so if you don't put the enough brackets, okay, you can just click on enter and the software is going to just tell you that there are missing brackets, and then it will close all the brackets that are needed for you. Okay, so it ended at A5, but it gave us those 2 brackets that we're supposed to have. So that would be how we will be writing our function. Okay, then this is our other method when we are actually nesting different functions to bring out the same answer. So when we are writing our functions, they can be different, but still bringing out the same answer. So you can find the one that is effective, the one that is less of a struggle to bring out the answer, depending on the scenario that we have been given. But now we have learned to use our length, our mid, our find functions to bring out the answer that we want. Okay, so that's it for text functions. It's bye for now.